And now, in the name of the great Dawkins, and for the sake of the movement, we shall follow the path of good arrogance, and continue our response to the insignificant Abubaker Siddiq. Proceed!
Also the notion of always wanting to be right. A lot of people in life have got this complex where they don't want to be wrong. They make arguments with other people because they want to be proven right. And atheism falls into this category.
Whoa, hey man, why are you knocking complexes all of a sudden? There's nothing wrong with complexes, remember?
There's this arrogance where you're part of a movement, where you've got this deity head above in God, which you're following. And that gives you some kind of complex, some kind of really strong mental complex.
But hey Abu, let me ask you something. If I tell you you're wrong and everything you've said in this video is stupid, and so is your belief in God and Islam, and that every point I've ever heard you make was so ear-fuckingly terrible that somehow I'm 10 times more atheistic than I was before I ever watched one of your videos, even though that makes no sense as a statement, will that make you happy? Is that the reaction that you're hoping to get by making this video? I doubt it. No, you knucklehead, you're not making this video in hopes that nobody will think you're right. You do want to convince people that you're right about all this bullshit you spew, because if that wasn't the case, you wouldn't try to back up your assertions with any arguments. I mean, yeah, your arguments are awful, some of the worst I've ever heard, but I'm pretty sure that's because those are the best you can do, not because you're actively trying to make people think you're wrong. And that's why you come up with this nonsense of everything I say is right, and if you don't think so, then you're just self-aggrandizing and self-worshipping, and you just have a complex where you just want to be right about stuff, and you're just addicted to Satan, so I'm right and you know it, and you just don't want to admit it. Now stop being arrogant and start being humble like me.
For example, when I have arguments with somebody, it's very rarely because I want to be proven right. It's more so because I want to improve them, or I see a fault in them and I want to correct that, and I want to make their life better, essentially.
Oh yeah, no, totally makes sense, Abu. You don't want to be proven right or anything. You just want people who disagree with you to accept your corrections of their faults. Their faults being not thinking you're right. Yep, that all checks out.
If you're an atheist, at least think about the concept of being an agnostic, at least, where you're not putting the existence of God out of the equation. At least acknowledge that there might be a God. There might be something there that would lessen your levels of arrogance and just make you more acceptable to other people's cultures and beliefs, and that's quite a nice thing to do.
Hey Abubaker, I don't give a shit about being acceptable to your culture or beliefs, okay? If you're arrogant and unaccepting of my culture or beliefs, well, why would that matter? I'm gonna go up to my friends and be like, hey guys, I know I was totally lame before, but now Abubaker Siddiq accepts me. Yeah, I went up to him and I told him the position I've held ever since the first time I heard of a god, which is that it may or may not be true, but I don't think it is, and it probably isn't. And then he told me he's happy that I stopped being an atheist. Yeah, I know, stop laughing, I know he doesn't know what an atheist is, but that's not the point! God! You guys never listen to me. Why can't I have any friends who respect me? Okay, you're gonna let me finish, thank you. Anyway, then he told me he doesn't think I'm so arrogant anymore, and that now I'm acceptable, and it made me feel really good inside. Yeah, it was sweet. I didn't have to change a damn thing about myself, and he accepted me anyway. It was really cool. Where was I going with this?
But 3 reasons why atheists don't believe in God is because it's considered a taboo subject. It's something that people don't want to question in life. If I go onto the street and ask someone if they believe in God or not, they're gonna look at you in a slightly odd manner because you've encroached on their personal space or their personal opinions of life. It's something that we don't want to confront.
Okay, but this is, what atheists are we even talking about now? People who are atheists because they think that thinking about the idea of God is taboo. Even thinking it to themselves, in private. People will go, so this God thing I keep hearing about, is that something I believe in? Oh, actually, I heard that's controversial. I better stop this train of thought. It's insensitive. Might offend someone by thinking this to myself. Yeah, I guess someone like that might exist somewhere. But isn't that kind of a small niche to include in a broad strokes discussion like this?
Especially, I've noticed in Western culture, in countries like Britain, in British culture, very much is a case of, it being respectable and being cool to be a slight agnosticist or a slight atheist.
What is it with you guys and agnosticist? The guy in my last video said the same thing.
Her video was regarding atheist and not agnosticist.
Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of religious people in Britain. It's majority of politicians in government or high-ranking officials, and including the Queen, do believe in God. The cool way of living life is to be assertive, to say that you believe in God, to make God aware that you actually love him and you respect him and you want to talk about him, to give all that love out to God, rather than hide it in society.
Oh yeah, Abubaker, the Queen and British government officials. That's the epitome of cool. Wait, did you just say God doesn't know how you feel if you don't talk about him all the time? Isn't he supposed to be all-knowing? Like he knows what's in your mind and shit? Now it just sounds like he's a creeper with a mic hidden in your room.
Another reason why people don't want to believe in God is because, one's own indulgence in one's sins over the years. It's going to be very hard for an atheist to say he wants to believe in God when he's got this litany of sins on his shoulders.
Abu, what people want to believe or don't want to believe does not factor into this discussion. I would love to believe there are aliens on Mars and $1 million in my bank account. But contrary to what you apparently believe, that has no bearing at all on whether I do or don't or will or won't believe those things. But there's a more important point here, which is, what the hell are you even talking about? Atheists have lots of sins, so we don't want to believe in God? Oh yeah, man, you got us! Here, let me magically transmit my inner monologue to you for just a second here. Well, I sure should start believing in that God fella, eh? He's probably real and I darn well know it. But I have done a bunch of sins, so he's gonna toss me in hell and torture me forever, eh? So I'm just gonna keep on not believing in him because that'll, make him, not do that. Well, hold on a gosh darn minute there. That doesn't make any sense at all. If I believe I have all those sins and I secretly believe God exists, well, that'd be a reason I'd want to believe, buddy. Not a reason I wouldn't, eh? Now hold on, why am I arguing about this with myself? Wait, why does my inner monologue sound so weird?
In a sense, he doesn't want to acknowledge that there is something out there above him which is writing all his bad deeds and that knows everything that he's doing.
Right, see? We don't want to acknowledge it. As in, we know it's true, but we just don't want to admit it. And again, Abubaker, you really don't quite get what an atheist is, do you? It must be really confusing to grow up so sheltered that you can't even comprehend the basic fact that some people don't think like you. I mean, shit, I was crazy sheltered. Not deliberately or anything, just by chance, I guess. I don't recall even realizing this God nonsense was a real thing that people actually believed until I was a teenager. People just didn't really talk about it much. And yet, once I started hearing you dumb fucks rattling on about it, I didn't stick my head in the sand and pretend you don't exist like you're just a bunch of secret atheists trolling the world or something, although that certainly is tempting to believe sometimes. No, I was like, holy shit, these people actually believe this garbage? That's incredible. Yeah, it was a shock, but I accepted it. Because I'm not so fucking arrogant that I assume everyone must secretly believe the same things I do. Oh, and I absolutely mean the bad kind of arrogance, Abubaker, as if there were any other kind. Just because your consciousness is the only one you've experienced, doesn't mean every other mind in the world is a straight copy of yours. Other people are other people because, they're not the exact same as you. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, but what the hell is with religious people and their failure to develop a theory of mind? Here, Wikipedia is good enough to define that. Theory of mind is the ability to attribute mental states, beliefs, intents, desires, pretending, knowledge, etc. to oneself and others, and to understand that others have beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives that are different from one's own. Deficits can occur in people with autism spectrum disorders, schizophrenia, ADHD, cocaine addiction, as well as alcoholics who've suffered brain damage due to alcohol's neurotoxicity. And in the religious. That last one isn't actually there, but maybe it should be. Or maybe I just talked to an unusually high number of coke addicts, I don't know. One of the most important milestones in theory of mind development is gaining the ability to attribute false belief. That is, to recognize that others can have beliefs about the world that are diverging. The results of research using false belief tasks have been fairly consistent. Most normally developing children are able to pass the tasks from around age 4. Notably, while most children, including those with Down syndrome, are able to pass this test, in one study 80% of children diagnosed with autism were unable to do so. Well, that's fascinating, because you're failing the test, Abu. Is there anything we should know?
So what he does is he ignores the God question.
I'm pretty sure you're still talking about the people who are just living their lives without this subject ever coming up. But I'm making this video, so fuck it. I'm taking it as you talking about me. Do I look like I'm ignoring the God question, Abu? 5 years, no, actually closer to 6 years of videos completely immersed in the grimy cesspit of intellectual waste that is theism. Listening to, considering, and shooting down all the little details that apparently make it so compelling. And not just me, almost 100,000 people subscribe to me doing the same just by watching my videos. And thousands more making videos, and hundreds of thousands more watching and commenting, and millions more out there in the world arguing. Oh yeah, Abubaker, we're really the ones dodging the issues here. Shit, at least we admit that our intellectual opponents exist. You can't even get that far. You just label us closet theists who refuse to admit it.
What you've got to remember is God is most forgiving. God says in the Quran in numerous times, he's the most forgiving.
Yeah, that's true. The Quran does say that an awful lot. Of course, that doesn't mean a lot coming from the guy who also says that if you're a polytheist or an atheist, he'll toss you in the hellfire and listen to you begging and screaming for forgiveness without granting it. And not just atheists and polytheists, but really anyone he feels like.
What the fuck, there's a narration in the Hadith. Prophet Muhammad said, when God created the heavens and the earth, he wrote on this banner, "My mercy overpowers my anger."
Well, there's an awful lot in the Quran about God's wrath, especially against the unbelievers and the polytheists, that contradicts that. But hey, that's fine. Let's just cherry pick the few less bad bits and hope nobody notices that the entire Quran is a rant about the cartoonishly evil punishment that's coming to the unbelievers, eh? Nobody could possibly notice that God saying, "My mercy overpowers my anger," is completely contradicted by the entire fucking Quran, right? It's not like it's all written down for everyone to see or anything like that. And hey, just because God seems totally incapable of getting his story straight doesn't mean he's untrustworthy, right?
If you want to start again, God will always help you.
Actually, the Quran is extremely clear that you can only start over again if God stops actively preventing you from doing so. Which, by the way, makes it really goddamn weird for God to be angry at anyone for not believing in him. It's like cutting someone's brake lines and then getting pissed off when they crash the car. There are way more verses stating this than I'm showing here, but I've already shown a bunch in a previous video and I'm not really into finding more. Besides which, it's not like they're scarce enough to really need citation. Just crack open the goddamn book and start reading and you're bound to run into this stuff pretty soon, so. Read the book. Please, I mean it. Atheists, religious people, read the book. It's an eye-opener. Anyway.
Actually, it's so comforting to know that there's something out there that knows everything that I'm doing. It's like my life's got this chronological story to it. And it's a story that'll never be lost. Never, even when I die, that story will continue because all our life will be presented before God in the next life. I'm living in the story and it's such a beautiful, romantic thing.
What a bizarre thing to want. You want someone to creep on you every moment of your life, watching every little thing you do and writing it down in meticulous detail, so you can be in a storybook. Well shit, I can help with that. Just go around your house, install a bunch of webcams, let me connect in remotely, and I'll write a storybook about you, Abubaker. If that's really what you want, I mean shit, even if you find out in the end that God really was writing a story, isn't it just that much more beautiful and romantic to have two stories? I mean, they'll both be pretty shit stories, because I severely doubt that your life is really interesting enough to warrant a story, let alone two. But hell, I'll do it anyway if you get off on that whole exhibitionist thing. Or you could do it yourself, just tweet out what you're doing every moment of every day. Oh, but right, it's not good enough for you if someone writes the most boring story in the universe about you. It also has to never, ever be able to be lost, ever. Fuck, you are one picky son of a bitch, And completely self-absorbed too, of course. Who the hell is so interested in themselves that their idea of a beautiful romantic universe is one that is interested enough in them to record everything they do and preserve it for eternity? It's weird. It's like opening an art gallery of your selfies. Is there anything in your worldview that isn't me, Abubaker?
So I've given you reasons why atheists, or some couple of reasons why atheists won't believe in God.
Yep. Fake ones that you invented to suit your self-obsessed fantasies, but yep.
Now I'm going to tell you reasons why I believe in God. I'm not going to go through it point by point steps, but I'll just quickly give you an overview of why I believe in God.
Oh, I simply cannot wait. But But hey, listen, Abu, I'll tell you this in advance. If you have compelling arguments that God actually exists, like, not why it would be nice to think he exists, but that he actually exists, I will believe in him by the end of this video. Just so you know. I'm dead serious. The very last thing I want is to disbelieve in something that's probably true. So let's have it. Your best arguments for why God probably exists.
For me, God personifies everything that's beautiful. You know, when I look at God, I see something that's a manifestation of goodness. And so if I believe in this goodness, then my communications and my interactions with other people and other things in this life will be good as well.
Yeah. Abubaker? That's not a reason why you believe in God, buddy. Okay, I gotta correct myself there. I guess in a way it is. It might be a reason why you're unwilling to question your belief in God, which is what you accused us of earlier, remember? You remember that absurd little moment of projection?
But 3 reasons why atheists don't believe in God is because it's considered a taboo subject. It's something that people don't want to question in life.
And I guess if it makes you unwilling to consider whether God actually exists or not, then it sort of is helping to maintain your belief. But when I think of reasons someone believes something, I think of the arguments that actually convince them that it's real. The arguments that support its existence, not the selfish little wishes and wants that keep them from questioning the quality of those arguments. So what I'm really trying to say is, yes, I'm perfectly well aware that you desperately wish God was real. You don't need to explain that or prove it because it's pretty goddamn obvious just by listening to you. But do you have any arguments that demonstrate that he actually is real? Like any?
For example, if I go to the countryside and I just sit down on a patch of grass and I look at the hills, in that I see beauty. And then what I do is I start to think about God and start to think about the beauty of the universe, because there's an author to it, and God is the author. If there's no author to anything, the sense of beauty is lost. For example, if you give me a painting and tell me there was no author to this, I'm going to look at it and not see any real beauty inside of it, because there was no author to it, there's no personal touch to it.
That is one of the saddest things I think I've ever heard, Abubaker, and I'm serious. That breaks my heart, man. It's like saying that food that you would otherwise find delicious turns to ash in your mouth if you learn that it was taken from the wild instead of farmed. Look, I understand that there's some art, the stuff that's meant to reveal something deeply personal about the author or their ideas about the human condition, that you could argue would lose some of its impact if it were the product of, say, an AI instead of a human. But that's just because of the very specific nature of that kind of art. But a hill in the countryside? So if you learn tomorrow that there's no God, you seriously could not look at that same hill and see its beauty anymore. It would just be drained of everything that made it special to you. Because the hill itself is not special to you. Only the author of the hill is special to you. Same with the beauty of a sunset or a galaxy or a gorgeous woman for that matter. Or man, I'm not judging. This is just... well, it strikes me as tragic somehow. Like you're not really enjoying anything that you're seeing, because the one single thing that controls whether you actually feel anything about what you're seeing is whether there's someone out there who could legitimately sign their name to it. It's kind of like you start with a baseline of everything is pointless and bland and ugly even. Maybe not ugly, but at least not beautiful, unless it meets this one arbitrary criterion that has nothing to do with what the thing inherently is. And that makes it so much more sad. It's a criterion that has zero impact on what it is you're actually looking at. The thing's exactly the same with or without an author, and yet somehow you see that as radically changing it. It's the sort of thing I could imagine someone with severe depression saying, which I guess shouldn't surprise me. I mean, I already jokingly decided in a previous video that you have that problem. Maybe you actually do. And I'm sorry, that's terrible, especially if it's gone on for this long. And this worldview also seems to express some kind of, I want to say nihilism, but I'm not sure that's quite the right word, because it's not so much a feeling that everything is pointless, as it is a feeling that everything has a point right now, but were it not for this one pointless little condition, it wouldn't. Someone want to help me out here? Is there a word for this? Hey, I wonder, you know how sometimes people build hills for whatever reason? Does that make those hills more beautiful than natural hills because they had more authors? Or would saying that be sinful because it's polybuilderism? Or hey, you know how sometimes people are digging a hole somewhere and they need to get rid of the dirt, so they just put it in a huge pile out of the way, and over time that pile grows grass on it and they just leave it there? right? So they didn't really give a shit about making that hill, but they just put it there because the dirt was useless. But later on, a neighborhood grows around it, and maybe they put a playground beside it. It turns into a community park. The kids love to play on it. It's like the greatest thing in the park. Is that hill less beautiful now because it wasn't lovingly authored with a purpose? Is it just a piece of shit to you? Or hell, what about ugly things? Pustules and maggots and... Hey, have you ever seen a bloodworm? I just saw it on Brave Wilderness the other day. It's like the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. If you're eating, you might want to stop for a second. Does that become beautiful because it has an author? Or is it just that you're picking and choosing the things that you already find beautiful, like hills in the countryside, and having an author allows them to stay beautiful to you, but having an author does not make ugly things beautiful? I wish I could pick your brain about your weird criteria for beauty. The inside of your head must be a fascinating place. Definitely not beautiful, but fascinating. But I think the point I'm really trying to get to, man, is if you ever play a procedurally generated video game, you are fucked!
I also believe in God because there's such a promise of so much more. There's a promise of an afterlife, heaven, which will go on for eternity and forever and ever and ever, and that will never stop. And that's something which, makes my soul much more calm in life.
That's yet another reason why you wish there was a God, not why you think there actually is one. We're running out of time here, man. Can you cut it out with the feels and get to the facts? I mean, do you even understand the concept that wanting something to be true doesn't mean it's true? Like, is that something you're even capable of grasping? And now that I think about it, the reasons you've presented in the past have been pretty similar to this. It's like nobody ever sat you down and explained that there's a distinction between what you wished upon a star and what you actually get.
All of that strengthens my levels of patience.
Oh, I'm sure it does. No sarcasm, I am dead sure. If there's one thing I can give you unreservedly, it's that you seem like an incredibly patient dude. And that's great. You're still full of shit, though.
That's the end of this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.
No, not really. No. I came into it feeling pretty good, and now I just feel pessimistic for the future of our species. But that's what draws the clicks on my channel, which is a bit sad, but I guess it's some consolation.
I really hope you start your quest to at least look into the question of belief in God. It's something that I think everyone has to do at least once in their life. I hope if you've not done it already, you go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I've looked into it. Been looking into it regularly for years. That's why I'm such a hardcore atheist. Harder after this. Dude, your arguments are so bad, you would make an atheist out of God himself. Never change, Abubaker. We love you around these parts. We have fun, but honestly, you're welcome around here, you're cool. And I'll second your advice. If you're not paying attention to the arguments for and against God, I would recommend diving in and looking at all of it as neutrally as you can. The world can always use more atheists.
Like I say, I always want the best for you guys. That's the reason why I'm making this video. I'm not making it because I want to be seen to be right. I'm making it because I want you to have all goodness. I want you to have a great life and a great afterlife as well.
Looking in from the outside, it seems more like you're making them to try to maintain your grip on the beliefs that give you the warm fuzzies. But hey, I can't read your mind, so I guess I better just take you at your word, especially because we're right at the end here. I want you to have a great life too, Abubaker. And my advice is... maybe you'd have a lot more happiness and a lot less stress if you just let go of your religion and learn to see the beauty of the world as it really is. There's a lot to be amazed by just in the authorlessness itself. It's incredible. Open up your mind and stop forbidding yourself from enjoying any version of life that falls outside this narrow range of possibilities, defined by your endless conditions and requirements. And stop obsessing over yourself so much. It's not healthy.
And I'll see you later. Bye.
See you later, Abubaker. And as for the rest of you, if you like this video, subscribe and give it a like so you can catch future videos, and share it around. If you really like my videos, consider supporting me on Patreon. Here's everyone who supports me at $5 or more, and not only are they very much appreciated, but they also get every big video like this one day early as well. And they and everyone else who supports me through Patreon or PayPal are hugely appreciated. Oh, by the way, follow me on Twitter at Logicked. That's how I keep you guys up to date on stuff, so if you don't follow me over there, it's kinda pointless. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, everybody.